All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to talk about basically the National League playoff picture, but more specifically, get into talking about the Marlins and the Cubs because obviously those two teams are neck and neck right now for that third wild card spot. The Marlins had a doubleheader against the Mets yesterday. The Cubs, they continue their series against the Braves. And as we currently sit right now, the Diamondbacks are 2 games up on both of those teams. They are in sole possession right now of the second National League wildcard spot. So obviously the Cubs losing a tough game on Tuesday, losing to the Braves. They had a 6-0 lead, and that ended up getting evaporated, and the Braves came back. And obviously Seiya Suzuki had that costly error late in the game that allowed 2 runs to score, and the Cubs lost the game. So yesterday, the Cubs again, they jumped out to a 3-0 lead early, and the Braves come back and they win again. And again, there was another error late in the game. So kind of to go through it. Actually, well, the Braves they got a home run in the bottom of the first. I was looking at because the first inning was cut off, so I just didn't realize that. So Ozzie Albies, he started off the game with his 33rd home run on the season, so that put the Braves up 1-0. Cubs tied the game on a passed ball in the top of the second. Mike Tauchman, he homered to make it 2-1. Ian Happ hit his 20th home run on the season to make it 3-1. And so there was a throwing error. So Marcell Ozuna reached on a fielder's choice. It was Horner. He was throwing to second base, and it was a bad play, and Swanson couldn't get it, and that allowed a run to score. The Braves, they had a chance to tie the game, but they ended up not doing so. I think they left the bases loaded. So we'll actually go to that. So that was in the 7th inning. So so got Michael Harris out. Then Sean Murphy struck out. And then Kevin Pillar popped out to end the inning. So the Braves, they really had a chance to do damage in that inning, but they couldn't cash in. The Cubs ended up not doing anything in the top of the 8th. Acuna singled. He stole his 69th base on the season. And then Albies singled to drive him in, and that tied the game at 3. Cubs again did nothing in the top of the 9th. Oh, actually, no. Never mind. I lied. Candelario walked. Yeah, and then Yan Gomes singled. And Dansby Swanson got hit by a pitch before that. So he scored on the play. So that made it 4-3. And then Marcell Ozuna in the bottom of the 9th hit his 37th home run on the season to tie the game at 4. And, so then we went into extra innings. Cubs took the lead 5-4. Then Pillar was at second base to start the inning. He ended up scoring on a ground out. It was 5-4. Then Acuna singled to tie the game at 5. He stole his 70th bag on the season. And then Albies singled to drive him in, and the Braves won again 6-5. And just another crushing loss by the Cubs. They've now lost 2 in a row to the Braves, 4-6 in their last 10 games, and the Marlins are tied with them now for that third wild card spot. So the Marlins, they had a doubleheader against the Mets. The Mets were all over them in the first game, winning 11-2, and then the Marlins ended up winning the second game, and that was a final score of 4-2. So we'll go through the scoring summary for both games. So the Mets in the first game, like I said, they were all over them. Pete Alonso hit his 46th home run on the season, put the Mets up 2-0. And he's another guy. If he doesn't get hurt, how many home runs does he hit this year? He's going to come close to 50. So, him and Aaron Judge both didn't miss time. They both would have had 50 plus at this point. Francisco Lindor hit his 28th home run to make it 4-0. Mark Vientos, his 9th home run to make it 6-0, a 2-run home run. Nick Fortes doubled to drive in a run, so it was 6-1. Jorge Soler sacrifice fly, it was 6-2 Mets. Lindor singled to score 2 more runs. Jeff McNeil singled to make it 9-2. And Nimmo hit a 2-run double to make it 11-2, and that was basically it with the Marlins. But yeah, not a good first game, but they did end up winning the second game 4-2. John Birdie hit a home run to make it 1-0. Lindor homered again to make it 1-1. Jesus Sanchez homered to make it 2-1. Lindor tied the game, hitting his 30th home run on the season to tie the game at 2. Yuli Gurriel reached on a fielder's choice to make it 3-2, and then Brian De La Cruz singled to make it 4-2. And yeah, that ended up being the final score. But quick thing to kind of highlight with the Mets. Francisco Lindor has had a solid season for the Mets this year. 30 home runs on the season, 96 RBIs, and 803 OPS, a 254 batting average, 30 stolen bases. He had a good year for the Mets. It's but unfortunate that the Mets kind of had the season that they ended up having. But that's encouraging. Going into next season, a productive year for Lindor. But so now we got both of these teams, the Cubs and the Marlins, tied. The Marlins, I think, have one more game against the Mets, or they're off. No, they got one more game with the Mets, and then who do they play to close out the season? The Marlins. If we look really quickly, because obviously the Cubs, they have one more game with the Braves, like I've talked about, and then they have 3 more games against the Brewers. Yeah, so the Marlins have 3 games against Pittsburgh. So right now, got to favor the Marlins. So right now, I'm leaning more towards the Marlins. And it's just, again, it's crazy because I really thought that the Cubs were a lock to make the playoffs at one point. Because it just, again, they were 10, 11 games over 500. They were riding high. And it looked really good. And then all of a sudden, they just have fallen off as of late. And now they might not even make it altogether. Also, I think Jake Berger, he got thrown out of the game. One of these games. I think it was the second game. Marlins, they end up tying the Cubs. They hold the tiebreaker, the Cubs still have a chance, of course, but tonight it's very important that they win this game somehow. But the Braves just kept coming back. Every time the Cubs took the lead, the Braves would come back, and the Braves ultimately ended up winning. And that's why the Braves are the team that they are this year. So, other scores. So the Phillies, they beat the Pirates 7-6. I mean, they pretty much have the top wild card spot. We know that. They're going to have 90-plus wins by the end of the year. So, again, that's going to be a team that you're not going to want to face if you're either the Dodgers or the Braves. And especially for the Braves, since, I keep mentioning it, that the Phillies were responsible for knocking the Braves out of the playoffs last year. The Brewers, they sat a lot of their guys. They ended up winning 3-2 over the Cardinals. Diamondbacks, they picked up a 3-0 victory over the White Sox. So I think at this point, barring something crazy, it's safe to say that the Diamondbacks will have that second wild card spot. Also, another headline from last night, we'll bring it up in this segment. The Padres actually picked up their first extra innings victory over the Giants, winning 5-2 to improve to 79-80 on the season. So they can get themselves back to 500 and finish over 500 for the season. Right now, I think they're I don't think they're not mathematically eliminated yet, but it's going to happen. The Giants are mathematically eliminated, so they're out. The Reds are a game and a half back. They did lose 4-3 to the Guardians, as I mentioned, talking about Terry Francona and it being his last home game. And actually, Shane Bieber pitched. I actually did not know that. I thought he was done for the year. But yeah, he ended up pitching for the Guardians, and they ended up picking up a 4-3 victory. Shane Bieber actually went 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run. So, yeah, that's good that he was able to come back. I honestly did not know that. I thought he was done for the season. But, so good for him. But, Reds lose a tough one. Padres still mathematically in it. They're 3.5 games back, but it's not going to happen. But still, if they can finish over 500 or finish at 500, and it really does make you wonder, they win some of those one-run games, I mean, they're right there. So, but it's just crazy. So they are 1-12 in extra inning games. It took them this long to win an extra inning game this season. So, but yeah. So right now, as it currently stands, you got the Phillies 89 and 69, 7 games up on the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks, they got the second spot, 84 and 74. Cubs and Marlins are tied, 82 and 76. Marlins hold the tiebreaker. Reds are a game and a half back. Padres are 3.5 games back. But it's not going to happen. But we'll see. You never know. No, it's not going to happen. But yeah, that's pretty much it when you look at the playoff picture. Obviously, for the Cubs, back-to-back nights, costly errors in the field, and the Braves just don't give up. I mean, they were down numerous times in the game last night, and the Cubs just could not put them away. And Jameson Taillon actually ended up pitching a good game. So actually, we'll look at his stat line very quickly here. So let's see. So obviously, he gave up the run in the top of the first. So yeah, I mean, he ended up going 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 strikeouts, and yeah, he gave up the home run to Albies in the top of the first. But they just could not hold that lead. The Cubs bullpen just could not hold that lead, and the Braves ended up, taking it. And listen, playoffs are different, obviously, but when you see the Cubs that are a wild card team going up against the Braves, who are the best team in baseball, you could see there is a difference. There is a big difference, and the Braves, I mean, they should go to the World Series this year. They should. But, again, you never know. With baseball, you just have no idea. But they're showing you why they are the best team. Because, I mean, they were down 6-0. They come back and win that. The Cubs kept, putting up runs and taking the lead, but the Braves just kept responding, and they ultimately won the game. So it's tough because, I mean, the other night Justin Steele pitches a good game. You're up 6-0, can't hold on to the lead. Costly error makes you lose the game. Jameson Taillon, who struggled this year, pitched a relatively good game, and they still end up losing. So, yeah, not looking good for the Cubs, especially because they're going to be playing the Brewers, and the Brewers very likely might want to stick it to them and just knock them out. And the Marlins, they're up against the Pirates after the Mets. So, right now you got to favor the Marlins. So, when it's all said and done, it's probably going to be Marlins, Diamondbacks, Phillies for all the wild cards, for the 3 wild card spots. So, but again, anything can happen. Obviously, today's Thursday. We got the whole weekend. So, I mean, when I come back on Monday, it's, we'll have to, we're just going to have to wait and see on that. But yeah, that's pretty much it with the second segment of the show. So obviously, we'll look at the American League side of things when we come back from break. We're obviously going to talk about the Astros taking the series versus the Mariners. We'll obviously mention the benches clearing again late in the game. And then we'll also talk about the Blue Jays losing another game to the Yankees. And then we'll go through the other scores with that. With the American League, AL East, obviously, Orioles are getting close to clinching the division. And, and then that'll bring us into the final segment, which is previewing all the games for tonight. So, with that, we are going to take our second break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the American League scores from yesterday, and obviously headlining that with the Astros taking 2 out of 3 from the Mariners in Seattle last night. So, stick around, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast.